Today is June 4th, 2020. I'm really not sure how we got to June already. Seems like just a couple of weeks ago I was pining for it to be April so I could get to planting. But as you know, things grow quickly, and so I'm going to show you today the progress that the veggies have made. It's amazing. Celeriac. All that trouble I had with the seeds, and it's finally growing. Have one baby zucchini down there. This is a round zucchini, so I'm curious to see what it's going to look like when it finally grows up. It's right there, and it's doubled its size since yesterday. And there's my little friend come to visit. Yeah, it's a neighbor cat. I don't think I've showed you these before. These are my tomatillos. And yeah, they got a few bug bites, but I'm going to come down here with some neem oil and take care of that, I hope. These squash are looking good. These were covered with row cover during the terrible freeze about a month ago. But I only had to replant one, and now they're actually growing up into actual squash plants. These do look a lot better than they did last year. Last year I had them over on the far side of the garden, and either they didn't like the soil over there, they didn't get enough sun, or something, because they did not grow well. And I got very few squash, which was a huge disappointment to me because squash is my favorite vegetable. I always say I never met a squash I didn't like, so I have really high hopes for these guys. I will be doing some seed saving videos. Well, at least one seed saving video, because I have these amazing flowers. That is one beet plant. You can see that two of them have bolted, and I really never expected that much of a show. They are just blooming like crazy, and I am really surprised, but they are making little seed pods, and so once those get going, now this has all just happened within like a week, so it's pretty amazing. We're going to let those seed pods develop, and then when the tops die back or they dry out, I will get them and we will collect the seeds. It's finally been warm enough for some of the pepper plants to start growing pretty well. This is just a bell pepper. The okra is growing, a little slow, but it's growing. I plan on leaving some pods on those too to save seeds as well. I want to save every kind of seed that I can this year. That tall lettuce right there is also getting ready to bloom. And you can see that I've still got plenty of small plants that I can still harvest. It's bitter when it gets tall, and of course when it's bolting it's not going to be edible, but that's okay because I was going to leave those anyway. But I can still harvest the small ones. They still taste good, and so that's what I'm going to do. And then hopefully I'll be able to show you how I collect those seeds later on. Now, I've never had lettuce go to seed before. In fact, I haven't grown lettuce much at all in my gardening career. But I guess we'll find out together what happens when they do make seeds. These peas are still producing. Some of the plants have died back, but they were the ones that I left pods on to save for seed, and so the plant didn't produce anymore because I didn't pick the pods. That's okay. I will come in here probably before too long and pull these out so that I can plant something else there. I have to work on my plan. I showed you all that volunteer, whatever it was, that sprouted in the lemon tree, and I brought it down here and put it in the ground. It's looking a little worse for the wear. May have been too big to transplant, but it was just kind of a bonus plant that I wasn't counting on, so we're going to try it out. I also put that volunteer tomato in the ground, and I really don't need another tomato plant, but why not? I'm curious to find out what it is. This corn looks pitiful yet again. Last year my corn didn't do anything. It grew to about 5 inches tall and then just died. So either the soil isn't right, or I'm doing something wrong, or I just need to rethink growing corn altogether. That's a subject for another video. I was also really disappointed because I thought I wasn't going to get any Moon and Stars watermelon. And lo and behold, after the first hot day we had, some of the seeds finally sprouted. They were in that seed tray for about a month, and I had just given up on them, but here they are. So they've been transplanted, and we'll see what they do. The sugar baby watermelons are looking really good. This is a different kind of zucchini, and if I'm not mistaken, it has a baby also. Yep, right there. So if all goes well, we should start having zucchini pretty soon. I was pretty excited to see those. I did buy zucchini down at the farm stand the other day, so I have had some to eat, but somehow it's just not the same as growing it yourself. The lemon squash are growing. They haven't bloomed yet, but it looks like one is getting ready to. And the red curry have grown also, and one of them is blooming. That is a winter squash, so I guess it's going to stay there a while. But I've never grown these before, so I'm not really sure what to expect from them, so we'll see what happens with that. And look at these crazy cucumbers. These were the tiny transplants I had in the last video. I'm going to have to see about trellising those guys, otherwise they're just going to climb all over the garden. Might get some bamboo. Maybe put up a chicken wire frame or something. I'll have to think about that. I think I've got a little bit of time, but at the rate they're growing, not that much time. These asparagus beans have blooms. I'm really excited about fresh green beans. I haven't had those in a really long time. I didn't grow beans last year. I really didn't have room for them, but with the garden expansion and lots of planting and replanting and redrawing and working out my map, I decided I wanted to do it this year. So far they're doing well. These are black beans that I actually bought in a bag at the grocery store. Planted a few. I don't know how they're going to do. I really don't know anything about their growing habit. I don't know if they need support or if they're going to be a bush bean. So far they look pretty bushy, and there's just a couple plants there, so it was just kind of an experiment. I don't know if it would be worth trying to grow a whole bunch of them or not. These guys are exciting though. These are the wax beans. And there are the pinto beans, and the wax beans are blooming, so we should have beans before too long. The dill and the parsley have really popped up, and that cilantro is coming along too. This really wasn't the best place to put any herbs, but I didn't have anywhere else to put them, and I wanted to see what would grow over here because this was the sort of the dead zone last year that nothing grew in, and I wanted to see if the soil had improved, and so here they are. I also planted some sunflowers over here alongside this bed, and you can see I've got quite a few carrots. Those are the spring carrots. Just gonna let those keep going, and there is a ton of weeds in there. I have been picking them out little by little, but man, there's a lot. It's plantain, and that stuff is everywhere. Between the plantain and the maple seedlings, I hope I get something out of this bed. I really don't know. I did a broadcast of the seed in there, and I'm really not happy with it at all, so I'm gonna change that for fall planting. I transplanted a squash in here on this side of the bed since the peas are dying back. These peas really didn't do very well, and I didn't have very many plants anyway, so I'm gonna pull those up pretty soon, but I did plant that squash over there in the corner. These are squash. And I think there's a gourd plant in there somewhere. I thought I'd try again to plant over here just to use the space with something sprawling and see if they do better than they did last year, because I have amended this soil quite a bit. And speaking of sprawling, these are Jubilee watermelons. These are the seeds I bought when I thought the moon and stars weren't going to come up. And I want y'all to look at this Cherokee tan. Good night. Well, I was going to show you the tomatoes and how much they've grown, but that's going to have to wait until it's not raining. It just started. I knew it was going to come, but it still kind of surprised me. Meanwhile, I'll show you what I got going on up here on the patio. I did prune the tomatoes. I took off the bigger suckers and stuck them in this can of water. And I'm hoping to try and root those, maybe for a succession or secondary crop, or maybe not. I don't know. We'll see how they do. We picked up a couple of new succulents at the farm stand. I love cacti. I can't help myself. And I got to repot them. I have one empty pot here because they got left outside and it froze, and that's on me. That's my mistake. Over there in the red one is one that's recovering. It's coming back out. I cleaned the gourds that I had from last year. I ended up with 3 cannonballs, my beach ball, and 1 snake gourd. Most of the snake gourds that I had were really thin, and I just kind of squeezed them a little bit and they broke. So I don't know whether that was because they were just left outside all winter, or if there was something inherently wrong with them and they just didn't grow very strong. But I did get the seeds out of snake gourds, cannonball gourds, and apple gourds, which I didn't have any survive that I could use for anything. But I sat out here and very carefully separated them and cleaned them off and all of that, put them in the bowl, and I was going to put them in the bag when I was sure they were completely dry. And then I took them in and I put them on the counter, and one of the cats decided to jump onto the counter and knocked everything off. So now my gourd seeds are all mixed together, and when I plant them I won't know what's what. Now I don't think I have time to plant any more this year, because they just won't have time. They need a long growing season, and I think my loofahs are gone. I had some seedlings, but it may be down there, but I'm not sure. They don't look like loofahs to me, so I think I'm just not going to have any this year. And I'll just have to start over again next year with more seeds. We got a pineapple the other day, and after I cut it up, I put the top in this red pot. I have rooted pineapples before. In fact, I had one when I lived in the city, and I had it for 4 or 5 years, but it never made a pineapple. So when I moved, it was too big to bring with me, so I gave it to a friend of ours. And I have no idea how it's doing now, but I'm going to start over with this one and see if it grows. The one on the right there is a house plant that accidentally got left out in the freeze, and I'm trying to get that to recover and start growing again. And lo and behold, I finally got some tansy. I have no idea where I'm going to put it, but I'll find a place for it. I might put it in one of those bigger pots up here. I don't want to just turn it loose in the garden because I think it'll be invasive like a lot of those self-seeders are. So I have to think on that. Here's my new chives. I bought plants and put them in there because the seeds just didn't do well for me. There's my beautiful lavender. The flowers are starting to open up. I have also realized that the mini greenhouse without the cover on is an excellent drying rack for the garlic harvest. Got some rain on my glasses and it seems like it's going to start coming down in earnest now, so I'm going to have to go back inside. But as soon as I can, I will show you the tomatoes because the growth has been incredible. This is the Cosmic Eclipse tomato from Baker Creek. I'm not sure why they're not growing as fast as the other tomatoes. I've never grown these before, so I don't really know what they do. I did notice that they don't have very many suckers, whereas the other ones I've already had a sucker twice. So maybe they're just a shorter, stouter tomato plant. I don't know. They seem healthy and they're doing okay, so I'm not worried about it. I'm just kind of surprised because look at all those guys. Practically got a tomato jungle down there already. I've got green tomatoes. These are the pink brandywines, the tomato that my dad gave me last year, and I saved the seeds. I did spend a little while talking with him today, and I told him about that, and he said that they're probably crossed with something else that he had in his garden, and I said, hey, I don't care, we may end up with something really interesting and new, but either way they're going to be delicious, I know. These tomatoes have been interesting. These are the money makers, I think. The marker got faded. My marking system didn't work as well as I had hoped it would, so I referred to the map, and it seems like these are the money makers. So they seem to be more compact, more bush-like. I'm wondering if they are a determinant. I didn't look, so I should probably do a little research on those and find out. I had put a stake in the ground in anticipation of it needing staked, but it hasn't needed staking, and neither have any of the others. But I want y'all to look at those leaves. They are big. They are bigger and wider than the other tomato leaves. This one here in particular, look at that. I've never seen a tomato leaf that big, I don't think. That's last week's garden walk. And from here on out, I'm going to change my focus a little bit. And instead of just doing a garden tour of everything each time, I'm going to talk about different things that I'm doing and different things that I want to do. And maybe that will help me, because I'm at the point now where I need to start looking at my notes. And I'll talk more about that in the next video. Thanks for watching. Blessings, everybody.